The fluorescent lights of the hospital corridor flickered as Michael navigated his way to the nurse's station. He could feel the weight of the day's challenges lifting as he thought about the patient he had just helped. He had managed to ease the pain of a young child with a broken arm, and the mother's grateful tears had made it all worthwhile. But as he approached the station, the uneasy tension in the air was palpable. Diana, the head nurse, stood behind the desk, her face a mask of controlled irritation. Her tight bun and crisp uniform seemed to embody her rigid approach to the job. Michael had always admired her dedication, but lately her demeanor had become increasingly hostile, particularly toward him. "Michael," Diana said coldly as he approached. "I need to speak with you." "Sure, Diana," Michael replied, trying to keep his tone light despite the unease he felt. "What's up?" Diana glanced around to make sure no one else was within earshot. "I've been reviewing the reports, and I've noticed you've been prioritizing certain cases over others. You're spending too much time on minor issues while neglecting more pressing emergencies." Michael frowned. "I'm just trying to give every patient the attention they need. It's important for their recovery." Diana's eyes narrowed. "You need to understand that this is a hospital, not a charity. We have protocols, and we can't afford to waste resources on every case that walks through the door. Sometimes, we need to focus on what's truly critical." Before Michael could respond, a nurse hurried up to the desk, her voice tinged with urgency. "Diana, we got a situation in the ER. A homeless woman was brought in, and she's in bad shape. They're asking for extra hands." Diana's expression hardened. "Tell them to manage as best they can. We have priorities here, and not every situation is worth diverting our resources." Michael's heart sank. The woman in the ER needed help, and from the description, it sounded urgent. He knew he couldn't just stand by. "Actually, I'll go help," Michael said, stepping toward the door. Diana's gaze was icy. "Michael, that's not your decision to make. You're scheduled to assist with the routine checks here. It's not worth risking our efficiency for a case that's outside our main focus." Michael hesitated for a moment, then made up his mind. "With all due respect, Diana, every patient deserves care. I'm going to see if I can help." Diana's eyes flared with anger. "You're putting your personal ideals before the needs of the hospital. If you continue down this path, you're going to face consequences." Michael nodded, knowing the risk he was taking. "I understand, but I have to do what I believe is right." He hurried to the ER, where the scene was chaotic. Rebecca, the homeless woman, was lying on a gurney, her clothes torn and bloodied. Michael immediately set to work, assessing her injuries and coordinating with the medical team. As the hours passed, Michael managed to stabilize Rebecca, but his mind was still focused on the brewing storm with Diana. He knew that defying her orders might lead to serious repercussions, but his conscience wouldn't allow him to turn away from someone in need. The shift ended, and Michael was preparing to leave when Diana appeared at the entrance to the break room. Her expression was one of cold resolve. "Michael," she said with a forced calmness, "I need to speak with you about your actions tonight." Michael met her gaze with determination. "I did what I thought was right. I won't apologize for helping someone who needed it." Diana's lips tightened. "You've just made a very costly mistake. Your actions have consequences." Michael took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. He knew the coming days would be challenging, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had made the right choice. As he walked out of the hospital, Michael couldn't help but think of Rebecca and the uncertain future that awaited them both. The next morning, the reality of his decision weighed heavily on Michael as he prepared for his shift. The usual hum of the hospital seemed unusually loud, each sound echoing in his mind. He knew that Diana's warning from the previous night was more than just idle threats. Her influence was significant, and he had little doubt that his defiance would lead to immediate consequences. As Michael walked through the hospital's doors, he noticed the absence of familiar faces. Several colleagues, who had once been warm and friendly, now avoided eye contact with him. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. In the staff lounge, Michael found a moment of solace and caught up with Nurse Amy, one of his few allies. Amy had always been kind and supportive, and he knew he could trust her to be honest. "Hey, Amy," Michael said, trying to keep his tone upbeat despite his anxiety. "Do you have a minute?" Amy looked up from her coffee, her face reflecting concern. "Of course, Michael. What's going on?" Michael took a deep breath. "Last night, I went against Diana's orders to help that homeless woman, Rebecca. I knew it might cost me, but I couldn't just walk away. Now, I'm worried about what's coming next." Amy nodded sympathetically. "I heard about it. Diana's not known for her tolerance when it comes to defiance. I'm afraid you might be in for a rough ride." Michael's shoulders sagged. "I just feel like I'm caught between doing what's right and facing her wrath. I'm not sure how to handle this." Amy reached out and placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "You're a good nurse, Michael. Sometimes doing the right thing comes with a price. If you need support, you've got it. Just be careful." Michael thanked Amy and made his way to his duties, his thoughts constantly drifting back to Rebecca. Despite his own troubles, he was determined to ensure that she was safe and cared for. Later that day, Michael decided to visit Rebecca. He wanted to check on her condition and make sure she had a plan for the immediate future. The hospital had arranged a temporary shelter for her, but Michael knew that was only a short-term solution. At the shelter, Rebecca sat on a worn-out sofa, looking more disheveled and distressed than ever. Her eyes, however, held a glimmer of hope when she saw Michael. "Michael," Rebecca said, her voice trembling. "I didn't think you'd come back." Michael took a seat beside her, his expression earnest. "I promised I would. How are you feeling?" Rebecca shrugged, tears welling up in her eyes. "It's been tough. I'm trying to keep it together, but it's hard. I don't have anywhere else to go." Michael nodded, feeling a pang of sympathy. "I understand. I want to help you get through this. Can you tell me more about what happened? It might help me figure out how best to support you." Rebecca hesitated, but then began to speak, her voice cracking. "I was kidnapped a few weeks ago. They tortured me, kept me locked up. I managed to escape, but I'm scared. I don't know who might be looking for me." Michael's heart ached for her. "You're safe now, and I'll do everything I can to make sure you stay that way. I can help you find a more permanent place to stay, and we can get you the support you need to recover." Rebecca looked at him with a mixture of relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Michael. I don't know how I would have managed without your help." As Michael left the shelter, his mind raced with possibilities. He knew that helping Rebecca would be an uphill battle, not just against the challenges of her situation, but also against the likely consequences of his actions at the hospital. His phone buzzed with a new message. It was from his mother, Evelyn, a kind woman with a deep sense of empathy. Her words were a comforting reminder of the values he held dear. "Michael, I heard about what happened. I'm so proud of you for standing up for what's right. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Remember, love and compassion are worth fighting for. Let's talk soon." Michael read the message, feeling a renewed sense of determination. With his mother's support and Rebecca's trust, he was ready to face whatever came next. He knew that the path ahead would be fraught with difficulties, but he was resolved to help Rebecca, no matter the cost. Michael's life was thrown into disarray over the next few days. Diana's wrath, though expected, had come with a personal and professional cost he hadn't fully anticipated. The hostility in the hospital had intensified, and Michael felt increasingly isolated. Colleagues who once shared friendly chats now avoided him, and the weight of the atmosphere grew heavier with each passing hour. He was on his way to the break room one afternoon when he bumped into Dr. Jensen, a senior physician who had always been supportive. Dr. Jensen looked at Michael with a mixture of sympathy and concern. "Michael, can I talk to you for a moment?" Dr. Jensen asked, guiding him to a quieter corner. Michael nodded, feeling a sense of dread. "Sure, Dr. Jensen. What's up?" Dr. Jensen sighed. I heard about the situation with Diana. I want you to know that many of us understand why you did what you did. It's not just about protocol. It's about humanity. But you need to be prepared. Diana has a way of making things difficult for those who cross her. Michael's shoulders slumped. I know. It's been rough. I've been trying to balance my commitment to my patients with the fallout from my decision. I'm worried about what's next. Dr. Jensen placed a reassuring hand on Michael's shoulder. Be prepared for a formal reprimand or even termination. You've made a powerful statement about your values, and unfortunately, Diana won't take kindly to that. If you need a reference or any support from me, don't hesitate to ask. Michael's expression softened with gratitude. Thank you, Dr. Jensen. Your support means a lot. As the day progressed, Michael couldn't shake the sense of impending doom. When he returned to his small apartment that evening, the reality of his financial situation loomed large. He had been living modestly, with his earnings carefully budgeted, but without his job, he faced uncertainty. Despite his fears, he knew he couldn't abandon Rebecca. He received a phone call from Rebecca later that night. Her voice was shaky, a stark reminder of the trauma she had endured. Michael, I didn't know who else to call. I'm feeling overwhelmed. The shelter isn't safe, and I'm afraid to stay there alone, Rebecca said. Michael's heart ached at her words. I'm here for you, Rebecca. I'm trying to find a better place for you, and I'm going to make sure you're safe. Just hang in there a bit longer. Rebecca's voice cracked. I feel like everything is falling apart. I'm grateful for your help, but I don't want to be a burden. Michael reassured her. You're not a burden. We're in this together. I'll figure something out. We just need to stay strong. As Michael ended the call, he couldn't help but worry about his own situation. He began to consider his options, weighing the immediate need to support Rebecca against his own uncertain future. The reality of losing his job, and possibly his livelihood, began to settle heavily on him. The following day, Michael received a formal letter from the hospital administration, summoning him to a disciplinary meeting. He knew this was the beginning of the end. The letter was clear. Diana had followed through on her threats, and his actions had led to serious repercussions. Michael arrived at the hospital for the meeting, his heart pounding. He walked into the conference room where Diana, the HR representative, and a few other administrators awaited him. Diana's cold gaze met his, and Michael felt a shiver of apprehension. Mr. Carter, Diana began, her tone icy. You've made quite a scene by defying my orders. Your actions have jeopardized hospital operations and our reputation. We can't tolerate such insubordination. Michael stood tall, despite the weight of the situation. I understand your position, Diana, but my primary responsibility is to my patients. I did what I thought was right. Diana's expression hardened. And now you're facing the consequences. Effective immediately, you are suspended, and a formal review will determine your future with this institution. I suggest you start looking for other opportunities. Michael took a deep breath, fighting to keep his composure. I understand. Thank you for the opportunity to work here. As he left the conference room, Michael felt a mix of relief and anxiety. He had stood by his principles, but the cost had been high. He knew that, while he faced an uncertain future, his commitment to Rebecca remained steadfast. The road ahead would be challenging, but Michael was determined to see it through, driven by the belief that compassion and empathy were worth every sacrifice. Back in his apartment, he received another call from Rebecca. Her voice was filled with desperation and hope. Michael, I found a small apartment, but I'm still nervous about everything. Can you help me with the initial costs? I promise I'll pay you back. Michael smiled, despite his own struggles. Of course, Rebecca. We'll get through this together. You focus on your recovery. I'll handle the rest. As he prepared to help Rebecca with the apartment, Michael felt a renewed sense of purpose. Despite the difficult path ahead, he was resolute in his belief that true compassion required courage, and he was ready to face whatever came next with unwavering resolve. The small, dimly lit apartment Rebecca had managed to secure was a modest but significant step toward stability. Michael arrived early one morning with a box of essentials he had gathered: blankets, toiletries, and a few groceries. He was determined to make Rebecca's new place feel as welcoming as possible. Rebecca opened the door, her eyes brightening at the sight of Michael. "You didn't have to do all this. I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything." Michael smiled warmly. "It's the least I can do. Everyone deserves a fresh start, and I want to help make this place feel like home." As they began unpacking the boxes, Rebecca seemed lost in thought. Michael noticed the distance in her eyes and decided it was time for a deeper conversation. "Rebecca," Michael said gently, "I know you've been through a lot, and if you're ready, I'd like to understand more about what happened to you. It might help you start to heal." Rebecca hesitated, then nodded. "All right. It's hard to talk about, but I think it's time." They sat down on the small couch, the room's sparse decor a stark contrast to the gravity of their conversation. Rebecca took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "It started a few months ago," Rebecca began. "I was living on the streets, trying to stay safe and keep my head down. One night, a man approached me, said he wanted to help. I was desperate, so I went with him." Her voice faltered as she continued. "He took me to a secluded place, and I was kidnapped. They kept me in a basement, tortured me for days. They wanted to extort money from my family, but they never contacted them. I was trapped, and when I finally managed to escape, I had no idea where I was." Michael listened intently, his heart heavy with empathy. "That's unimaginable, Rebecca. I can't begin to understand the pain you've been through. But you're safe now, and we're going to work through this together." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "I've been so scared. Even now, I feel like they might come after me again. I don't know who else to trust." Michael reached out and gently took her hand. "You're not alone in this. I'll make sure you have the support you need, and we'll figure out a way to keep you safe." Later that evening, Michael made arrangements with a local support group specializing in trauma recovery. He also reached out to his mother, Patricia, for advice and support. Patricia was a retired social worker with a deep understanding of social services and emotional healing. When Michael visited his mother the next day, he found her in the kitchen, preparing tea. Patricia looked up and saw the strain in her son's face. "Michael, what's wrong?" Patricia asked, noticing his troubled expression. Michael sat down at the kitchen table and sighed. "Mom, I'm helping a woman named Rebecca. She's been through some horrific experiences, and I need your advice on how to best support her. I'm also worried about her safety." Patricia poured the tea and handed a cup to Michael. "Tell me more about her situation." Michael explained Rebecca's ordeal in detail, including the danger she was still facing. Patricia listened carefully, her brow furrowed in concern. "It sounds like Rebecca needs more than just a safe place to stay," Patricia said thoughtfully. "She'll need professional counseling and perhaps a safety plan to protect her from potential threats. It's important that she has access to mental health services and a supportive community." Michael nodded, taking in her advice. "I've already contacted a support group, but I'd appreciate any additional resources you can suggest." Patricia smiled reassuringly. "I'll help you find some trusted organizations and counselors. You're doing the right thing by standing by her. It's crucial that she feels secure and supported as she begins to heal." The following week, with Patricia's guidance, Michael and Rebecca connected with a counselor specializing in trauma recovery. The process was slow and emotionally taxing, but Rebecca began to show signs of improvement. The safety measures Michael put in place, including working with local authorities, helped ease some of her fears. One evening, as Michael was leaving Rebecca's apartment after a therapy session, she stopped him at the door. "Michael, I wanted to thank you," Rebecca said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You've done so much for me, more than I ever expected. I don't know how to repay you." Michael smiled warmly. You don't have to repay me. Seeing you begin to heal is enough. I'm just glad I could be here for you. As Michael walked home that night, he reflected on the journey so far. The cost of his decision to stand by Rebecca had been high, but witnessing her gradual recovery and finding purpose in his support reaffirmed his belief in the power of compassion. Despite the obstacles ahead, Michael felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that he was making a tangible difference in someone's life. The weeks following Rebecca's arrival at her new apartment were both challenging and hopeful. Michael continued to visit regularly, providing emotional support and helping her navigate her new reality. Despite the progress, Rebecca still struggled with anxiety and distrust, so Michael's role became even more critical. One Saturday afternoon, Michael arrived at Rebecca's apartment with a bag full of groceries and a fresh set of supplies. Rebecca greeted him at the door with a hesitant smile. "Hey, Michael," Rebecca said softly. "I didn't expect you today." Michael entered the apartment, setting the groceries down on the kitchen counter. "I thought I'd drop by and see how you're doing. I brought some things you might need." Rebecca's eyes softened with gratitude. "You've been so generous. I don't know how to thank you enough." Michael shrugged, offering a reassuring smile. "You don't have to thank me. I'm just glad to help. How was your week?" Rebecca sighed, sitting down at the small dining table. "It was rough. I had a few flashbacks and nightmares. It's hard to shake the feeling that something bad is going to happen." Michael pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "I understand. Healing takes time, and it's normal to have setbacks. But you're making progress, and that's what matters. Have you had a chance to talk with your counselor this week?" Rebecca nodded. "Yes, and she's been really helpful. But sometimes it feels like the fear and pain are too much to handle on my own." Michael reached out, placing a comforting hand on hers. "You're not alone in this. I'm here for you, and we'll get through this together. Remember, it's okay to lean on others." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to be a burden." Michael shook his head. "You're not a burden. It's okay to need help and support. That's what friends are for." As Michael continued to help Rebecca settle into her new life, he made it a point to ensure she had access to all necessary resources. He helped her apply for government assistance and connected her with community support groups. However, despite these efforts, Rebecca remained on edge, her past trauma casting a long shadow over her present. One evening, Rebecca called Michael in a panic. "Michael, I'm really scared. I think someone's been following me. I saw the same car parked outside my building twice today." Michael's heart raced. "Okay, stay calm. I'll come over right now." Within minutes, Michael arrived at Rebecca's apartment. She was visibly shaken, pacing the floor as Michael reassured her. "Let's not jump to conclusions," Michael said, trying to calm her down. "We'll check the area together and see if there's anything suspicious. If needed, we'll contact the authorities." They stepped outside, and Michael scanned the street. The car Rebecca mentioned was parked a few houses down. Michael took out his phone and discreetly took a picture of the vehicle for documentation. Rebecca's hands were trembling. "Do you think it's them? The people who hurt me?" Michael tried to offer reassurance. "It's possible, but it could also be a coincidence. Let's stay alert and keep monitoring the situation. I'll also contact the local police and report your concerns." Michael's involvement did not stop there. He continued to check in with Rebecca daily and coordinated with local law enforcement to ensure her safety. He also arranged for a security system to be installed in her apartment, further adding to her sense of security. One evening, while Michael was sitting with Rebecca, they had a heart-to-heart conversation about her progress and future. "I've been thinking a lot lately," Rebecca began, her voice steady but contemplative, "about what comes next. I want to move forward, but I'm still so afraid." Michael nodded, encouraging her. "It's natural to feel that way. Moving forward doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means acknowledging it and choosing to live despite the fear. You're stronger than you realize, Rebecca." Rebecca looked at him with gratitude. "Thank you, Michael. You've been my lifeline through all of this. I wouldn't have made it without your support." Michael smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "You're the one showing incredible strength. I'm just here to support you. We'll keep working on this, one step at a time." Their bond grew stronger as they continued to face challenges together. Michael's unwavering support played a crucial role in Rebecca's healing journey, offering her a lifeline of hope and reassurance. As they moved forward, Rebecca began to regain a sense of normalcy, supported by the compassion and dedication of a friend who refused to let her face her struggles alone. Rebecca's journey to recovery was filled with both progress and setbacks. As she started to adapt to her new life, Michael remained a constant source of support, helping her navigate the various obstacles she encountered. Despite their efforts, challenges seemed to arise at every turn, testing Rebecca's resilience and Michael's determination. One rainy afternoon, Rebecca called Michael with a distressed voice. "Michael, I don't know what to do. I just received a letter from the hospital saying my medical bills are overdue. I can't afford them, and I'm so overwhelmed." Michael, hearing the worry in her voice, responded calmly. "Okay, let's take it one step at a time. I'll come over and we'll figure this out together. It's important not to panic." When Michael arrived at Rebecca's apartment, he found her sitting at the kitchen table, holding the letter and staring at it with a mixture of frustration and anxiety. Michael sat down beside her and took the letter from her hands. "This doesn't look too severe yet," Michael said, scanning the letter. "It's just a notice, not a final demand. We need to contact the hospital's billing department to explain your situation." Rebecca nodded, visibly relieved by Michael's presence. "I've been so stressed about everything. I feel like I'm just treading water." Michael gave her an encouraging smile. "You're doing better than you think. Let's tackle this together. I'll make the call to the hospital and see what we can work out." As Michael handled the phone call, Rebecca watched him with a mix of gratitude and apprehension. After a brief conversation with the hospital's billing representative, Michael turned to Rebecca. "They're willing to set up a payment plan for you," Michael said, trying to lighten the mood. "It's a manageable amount, and they're sympathetic to your situation. We'll need to keep up with the payments, but it's a good start." Rebecca let out a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Michael. I don't know what I'd do without you." Michael gave her a reassuring pat on the back. "You're not alone in this. We'll get through it together." Despite this small victory, Rebecca faced additional obstacles. Her part-time job at a local cafe proved to be a challenging environment, as her trauma sometimes affected her performance. On one particular evening, Rebecca called Michael again, her frustration evident. "Michael, I'm having a hard time at work. My manager is unhappy with how slow I am, and I'm worried about losing the job," Rebecca said, her voice shaky. Michael listened intently. "It's understandable that you're struggling. Healing isn't a linear process. Maybe it would help to have a talk with your manager and explain your situation. They might be more understanding than you think." Rebecca hesitated. "I'm afraid they'll see it as an excuse. I need this job to stay afloat." Michael placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It's worth a try. If you're honest with them, it might open up a supportive dialogue. And if things don't work out, we can explore other options together." Encouraged by Michael's advice, Rebecca decided to have a conversation with her manager. The discussion was difficult, but she was honest about her struggles. To her surprise, her manager responded with empathy and agreed to provide her with additional support, including a temporary reduction in hours and a mentor to help her adjust. One evening, Rebecca sat down with Michael to share the outcome of her meeting. "My manager was actually understanding. I was so scared, but it went better than I expected." Michael smiled, relieved. "That's great to hear. You were brave to speak up, and it paid off. Remember, it's okay to ask for help when you need it." Despite these improvements, Rebecca continued to face moments of doubt and fear. One day, she encountered an old acquaintance from her past while grocery shopping. The encounter left her shaken, and she confided in Michael later that evening. "I saw someone today who knew me before everything happened," Rebecca said, her voice trembling. "They recognized me and gave me a weird look. I'm so afraid of being judged." Michael listened carefully. "People's opinions don't define your worth. You've been through so much, and you're working hard to rebuild your life. What matters most is how you see yourself and the progress you're making." Rebecca took a deep breath, feeling comforted by Michael's words. "Thank you for reminding me. Sometimes I forget that I'm making progress, no matter how small." Michael nodded. "Every step forward is progress. You're stronger than you know, and each day you're moving closer to the life you want." As the weeks went by, Rebecca's confidence began to grow. She faced each new obstacle with renewed determination, supported by Michael's unwavering commitment. Their bond deepened through these shared challenges, and Rebecca started to see a glimmer of hope in her future. One evening, as they sat together in Rebecca's cozy living room, she looked at Michael with appreciation. "I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for me. Your support means more than words can express." Michael smiled warmly. "I'm just glad I can be here for you. Your strength and perseverance are truly inspiring. We'll keep working through this together, one step at a time." Their journey together continued, marked by resilience and the power of unwavering support. Rebecca's path to recovery was far from easy, but with Michael by her side, she began to overcome the obstacles in her way and envision a brighter future. After months of hard work, emotional healing, and facing numerous challenges, Rebecca began to see the fruits of her labor. Her health improved, her job situation stabilized, and the scars of her past were starting to fade. Michael's steadfast support had been crucial throughout her journey, and their bond had only grown stronger. One sunny morning, Rebecca stood in her modest but cozy new apartment, taking in the fresh coat of paint and the simple, yet comforting furnishings. The apartment was a significant step up from her previous living conditions and a symbol of her new beginning. Michael arrived with a small housewarming gift, a potted plant. "Hey, Rebecca. I thought this might brighten up your new place," Michael said with a warm smile, handing her the plant. Rebecca took the plant and looked around her new apartment, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "Thank you, Michael. This place is finally starting to feel like home. It's hard to believe how far I've come." Michael set the plant on a table and glanced around. "It's amazing what you've achieved. You've worked so hard, and you deserve every bit of this fresh start." Rebecca's eyes filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you. Your support made all the difference." As they settled in for a cup of coffee, Rebecca shared some good news. "I've been offered a permanent position at the cafe. It's a huge relief to know I have job security now." Michael's face lit up with pride. "That's fantastic news. I'm really happy for you. It's a testament to your dedication and resilience." Rebecca's smile widened. "I'm also planning to take some classes at the community college. I want to further my education and open up more opportunities for myself." Michael nodded encouragingly. "That's a great idea. Education can open so many doors. I know you'll excel in whatever you choose to pursue." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Rebecca opened it to find her mother, Sarah, standing there with a bouquet of flowers. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Rebecca exclaimed, embracing her mother. Sarah hugged Rebecca tightly, tears in her eyes. "I came to see how you're doing and to bring you these flowers. I'm so proud of you for everything you've overcome." Rebecca's eyes welled up with emotion. "Thank you, Mom. It means the world to me to have your support." As they sat together, Rebecca's mother shared her own reflections. "I've seen how hard you've worked, and I just want you to know that I believe in you. I'm here for you, no matter what." Michael watched this heartfelt reunion with a sense of fulfillment. After Sarah left, Rebecca turned to Michael. "I never thought I'd be in a place where my mom and I could have a moment like this again. It feels like things are finally falling into place," Rebecca said, her voice filled with hope. Michael placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You've created this new beginning for yourself through your own strength and determination. You deserve all the happiness that's coming your way. Over the next few weeks, Rebecca thrived in her new job and began her classes, finding joy in her renewed sense of purpose. Michael continued to be a source of encouragement and support, often joining her for study sessions or offering a listening ear. One evening, as they walked through a local park, Rebecca expressed her thoughts about her journey. "Sometimes, I still can't believe how much my life has changed. It's like I'm living in a dream." Michael smiled. "It's not a dream, Rebecca. It's the result of your hard work and perseverance. You've created this new chapter for yourself, and you've earned every bit of it." Rebecca stopped and looked at Michael, her eyes filled with appreciation. "I want you to know that your friendship has meant more to me than I can ever fully express. You've been there through the darkest times and helped me find my way." Michael's expression softened. "I'm just glad I could be a part of your journey. Your strength and courage have been inspiring. Seeing you thrive is the best reward I could ask for." As they continued their walk, Rebecca and Michael reflected on the journey they had shared. Their friendship had become a cornerstone of Rebecca's new beginning, and both were excited about the future. In the weeks that followed, Rebecca settled into her new routine, balancing work, studies, and her personal life. She felt a renewed sense of confidence and hope, knowing that she had the support of her loved ones and the strength to face whatever came next. The story of Rebecca and Michael was one of transformation and hope, illustrating the profound impact of empathy and unwavering support. As Rebecca embarked on this new chapter of her life, she did so with a heart full of gratitude and a future brimming with possibilities.